How's everybody doing today? Welcome to our really chill town bi-weekly dev stream. Obviously, my name is Matt, and obviously that's my name.
Obviously.
You look at me and you're like, well, that's obviously Matt. And I'm with me as Mark. HB is not here.
Feels more casual without HB.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Feels like it's not a real dev stream, so we can
It's true, yeah.
say whatever we want. Don't have to play by the rules.
It's getting a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
We're working real hard over here, so.
Yeah, we're just putting our heads down, working on the winter update, working on the updates between now and the winter update, and I don't know. We're just in sort of put our heads down and work mode, which is why there's only a two-man team here.
Yeah, everybody's.
Because HB is very busy working on things, and we're sort of like in a, let's almost focus more on just
The next set of features.
down. Yeah, as opposed to like I don't know.
We have a
I don't know where this is going.
Yeah,
man.
we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff coming up, but it's like far off, so we need to get started on it and make sure that it's all like ready to go. And without saying a word of it, because I can't, and we shouldn't yet. A lot of it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
So that means
we're sort of like speak through our actions mode. That was what I was looking for. That's what I was trying to say, Matt.
Yeah. Well, just to start it off on a bit of a light note, people ask why are all our outlet lights our outlets uncovered? Because we have two. We've got this one here, which has a piece of paper on it, which maybe isn't like the best idea. And then we have this one here. Is there a reason for that, Mark?
Because it was like that when we moved in, and we're too focused on making games than fixing our office.
It's true. That's really it.
That's like the honest answer.
But I'm not going to turn the camera because there might be sensitive information. But there's two outlets. There's one over here and one over here that do have covers. So we're not total monsters.
Actually, you know what? I think those are the only two uncovered outlets in the office.
I think so. They just happen to be where our camera points.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, let's get started.
Cool.
I'm the one who has to switch over.
Doing community highlights without HB should be interesting. Planes. That's the thing we should talk about is planes. Right.
So this is, just to be clear, this is community highlights.
Yes.
And I thought this was a cool idea.
And community highlights is basically where we show off the best stuff from the community. And it's just a subset of the full community highlights post that comes later this week.
A little bit later this week. This was a cool idea though, and I think one of the things that kind of caught my attention was that it's not direct player control. That's the suggestion.
Let me ask you something, Matt. If there was one, so I'm assuming you read this thread, at least to some degree.
I read a little bit, yeah.
Right. Okay. If there was one thing that you want to change from this idea, what would it be?
I want you to be able to control the planes.
That's the first thing that I thought of is like, it wouldn't be Foxhole if it was like automated. That's like having the trucks drive themselves. Right?
Yeah. I think,
But every other idea from it, I loved. Like, I love tying the scout planes into like the map intel. I love the fact that there's like the strategic bombing aspect. I like the paratrooping idea and like the air support. I loved it all. I was just really the only thing was like, well, why is it automated, right?
I mean, realistically, like a big part of warfare, sort of post like the beginning of the 1900s has been air. So like it's really hard to not have it in the game, and I think one of the big struggles is like, how do we sort of appropriately integrate it? Because in a plane, you're just going to scream over like a map really fast. Like, and I think some of the ideas are really interesting, but I still would want you to be able to drive the plane. And I think,
I mean, I get the feeling, Matt, that this was suggested this way because of the issues. Suggester was trying to be reasonable about it, and which is great. Like, sort of really thinking through how we can. I think that's the one thing I really liked about this suggestion was really thinking It's not just like, oh, add planes, it'll be cool. It was actually like thinking about, okay, how's it going to work with all the various systems in the game?
It's a high quality post.
It's a high quality post, going through asking the same kind of questions that we'd probably ask, right? Which is why it was really cool. But I don't know. I always imagine though, if we were to ever add planes to Foxhole, that it would almost be like this whole other game, right? Like
it would make like in my head. I've always seen it as like 1984, like the game,
right?
And like
except more like tactical, right?
Yeah,
and not just flying in a straight line.
Is it 1984? Is that the right game?
1942.
1942. Yeah,
know,
that's what it is. 1984 is the fucking George Orwell book.
What's 1984?
It's not something to do with George Orwell.
Oh.
Am I just like mixing up a bunch of crap in my head? I'm just making stuff up. You guys know what I mean. The fucking top-down flying game.
Is that 1942?
1943, 1942?
Or are you confusing with like Battlefield 1942?
No, because there's like like someone can correct me. There's like a game. It was like for the Sega Genesis or something. And
well, it was an arcade originally.
Yeah, it was like an arcade game, and it was like kind of top down, and you'd like shoot like boats and stuff. It was really cool.
Right.
I just can't remember. 1942 is the game.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought this was a really cool idea. I even liked like the UI mock-up, which it actually looks really like looks like it's part of the game. This was a really great post.
These are
these are really cool. I think there was like a debate in the office though on whether this was posted on like our internal Discord, and we were wondering if it was made with. I think there's some program that you can make, but
like you can make like Lego mock-ups basically.
Exactly, but the conclusion was that it doesn't matter. Like it's cool either way, right? And
I mean, this looks like Lego Foxhole, like the video game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, honestly,
in some crazy alternate universe, Foxhole is huge enough that we
get a Lego version.
Lego's licensing the rights to make an actual physical Lego set. Because honestly, I feel like the vehicles. I mean, obviously, I'm extremely biased, right? But I feel like the vehicle designs are unique enough that you'd be able to point out, oh, that's a Foxhole Lego set, and you wouldn't just be like, this is a World War II Lego set, right? It's unique enough, right? Obviously, again, fully biased. I'm a dev.
I think
I like Foxhole.
I think it'd be cool to like actually like see this in my hands. Like that would be like the next thing. Is to actually like really
look at it. Are you asking the community to make this, Matt? Is that what you're doing?
No, I would never do such a thing. Ever. My mailing address is something I'm not going to give away on the internet. Anyway, this is cool. I just like that. I think Foxhole works really well with like Lego stuff too. Just kind of the way that our game is sort of built, and I think like if you had like a full Lego set, it would probably make a lot of sense.
Right.
And you can get all the different details because it's not like our vehicles and our stuff is like so detailed that you can't get like the big broad picture.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's also very cool too when it's kind of funny because we often see like the armored car, and you'd think that people would just go for like the battle tank or like the tanks, right? But
it's a cool design.
It's really, really cool. No, definitely, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's cool that the armored car is chosen, right? You know what we haven't seen? The half track. Maybe because people feel like the half track isn't that useful.
Well, I guess we're just gonna buff the shit out of it next patch.
People hate half tracks. For some reason, I thought that I saw this one posted by Lurkus a long time ago.
It seems new to me.
But maybe it's just that it was like a couple of weeks ago, and I felt like the last couple of weeks have been really long. That might be it too.
I watched the progress from the one by Hard Nails over time.
Oh, really? How did you? Oh, was it streamed or something?
No, it was just he was just posting progress pictures on
that's really
the
cool.
Discord, and it came a long way.
Yeah.
You can. I don't know if they're like influenced by something, but those two drawings are very similar in terms of like the character. Is this like a character I'm unaware of?
Yeah. No.
Or is it just a Foxhole model with a gas mask?
I didn't even think about that till now. Yeah, I don't know. Is it like some character that we don't know about?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But one thing I will say is Lurkus has gotten really, really good.
And you know what's really cool about that is that Lurkus has been doing fan art for like years now, and you can literally see him like improving as like an artist. And I mean, you can probably speak to that more than I can, but like he's definitely gone better over the years.
I mean, the improvement's night and day. Like it's
Yeah.
been like 3 years or something, and like you can really see that progress.
Yeah.
There's a lot more nuance in this, unless like for some reason this is just some like a modification of some other art or something. I mean,
Right.
sometimes that happens in the community,
I
but
don't
I'm
think
gonna
so.
assume no.
I don't
And
think so, but just in case.
just
Just to get our-
just in case. But yeah, it's come a long way. There's a lot more going on than some of his previous stuff.
Yeah.
And let's not ignore the tank in the corner. Tanks are hard to draw. They're just
You know, you guys have
Extremely
said
tough.
that a couple of times. Like, is there a specific reason? Is it like the perspective is like hard to get right? Is that
I personally find mechanical stuff really tricky. I'm far more like a character person,
right?
character guy, or like organic stuff like trees and things like that. I don't have the patience for really organic, really technical perspective stuff like a tank would require, because there's a lot of like mechanical lines, mechanical sort of
Right.
precision in things like tanks that there are people who just like really revel in that stuff.
Yeah. I used to sketch tanks when I was in like elementary school. Just for fun, like in grade 3 and 4. I used to be like just sketching, you know, at school.
You
sketching
used to do
tanks.
like spaceships and stuff too, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I remember you. I remember talking to you about
I was
that.
such a
at one
nerd. I
point.
used to like draw sketch spaceships that looked, probably if we were to look at it now, look completely terrible. I mean, if I'd sketch one now, it probably wouldn't look that great either. But I'd write the specs out for them too. Like I'd like, oh, this
yeah,
has
yeah.
like 3 like phase cannons, and you know, it you know, it's like a carrier. It holds like fighters too.
Yeah.
And I'll totally just be like a huge nerd and just like, you know.
See, I used to do that, but I used to do it with like Mortal Kombat characters. Like
I did the Mortal Kombat characters as well.
I would like
but-
make my own Mortal Kombat roster and be like, this is the guy who like throws fire and ice. Anyway,
Right.
he's blue and yellow.
This
Anyway,
is why you end up making games.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's the outlet for that. Cool. So that's
That's community highlights.
me highlights for this week, and I guess we'll just. It's weird because usually I don't talk, and then I talk now, but.
It's just the two. There's no HB to cover us here
Yeah.
today.
So yeah, let's talk about what we're working on. Again, we're just heads down, working on improvements, and also working on towards the winter update and some things in between. Just sort of want to revisit this roadmap slightly. There's one tweak, and some of the communication tools that we were going to do for update 30 have been moved to update 31. No surprise there. And other than that, yeah, we're just there's going to be an update October, November, and then there's going to be the winter update. So, you know, I've seen this a million times. Not going to talk too much about it.
The winter update is the big one before the end of the year as well.
Exactly.
For anybody who
it's like
isn't-
the equivalent to the update 20 that we had last year, right? So that's sort of what you can expect. So one thing that's sort of an ongoing thing that we've been doing, we did some of this in the fall update. We're going to continue doing some of this stuff in update 30 and update 31 and like the winter update. Sort of like an ongoing thing is sort of, it's an ongoing process for us and a conversation on how we can improve the Logi game. Cause this is like bigger than just like a single update. So we're sort of chipping away at it in each update, and a couple of things that we are going to be addressing soon. I don't want to necessarily say 100% this is coming in the next update, but I'm just going to run through that list and show you guys what we're working on there. First, some just basic quality of life things. Cranes can now be built near your town halls and forts. So we've definitely heard this has been a huge pain point, is driving the cranes all the way from the back line. This improved slightly in the fall update because we sped up the cranes by 30%. And we think we have longer term solutions here for this issue, but for now, before we get those longer term solutions in place, this is sort of like the stopgap solution, is to just simply allow them to be built at the town halls and forts. So hopefully that should help out a bit. Structure icons shown on the HUD map for drivers. This is a small little change, but I think so. The whole point of the mini map on the HUD for drivers is so that players, it's not to replace the main map, and we've always been very careful about that. It's to allow you to sort of be able to see the things that you would be able to see if you're actually driving in a first person, right? Something along those lines. So one thing that you should just be able to know is if you're close to, if you're close to that, if you're close to like a town hall or like a refinery, you should just sort of, you'd be able to see that if you're driving, right? So we're gonna just simply add those, which should just help a little bit. It's one of those small tweaks, might help by like 1 or 2%, but sometimes that 1 or 2%
can go a really long
can
way.
really go a long way, right? So that should hopefully help with smooth over some of the driving. So that all your items in a stockpile are shown, not just the top 20 in your mini map. So I'm missing a little bit of a point there. So you're gonna have to hopefully listen to this, but when you hover over a stockpile in the mini map, it's actually gonna show all the items now, not just the top ones, because we also heard that this was...
Will there be like a good like scroll bar or something in there?
No, we're just gonna show them all. And we actually did a test on what the worst case is, and it's not pretty, but it's not terrible either.
Okay.
And
I mean, I guess it goes away if you move away. It's not like you need to see the map underneath.
Oh yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't really know why I'm thinking that's an issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is an issue, but we looked at it, and for now, we think it's okay. In the future, maybe if there's too many items, we're gonna have to revisit that again. But another thing is tech parts and resource mine are shown in the map tooltip. This was another thing that was brought up, and then the same thing, vehicles available at the storage depots, also shown in the map tooltip. So this is sort of like a small list of a larger list of things that we're just slowly working on, right? So, these aren't big like, this is going to change the game for you, or if you're not happy, it's going to make you happy. It's more like, this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. We're just putting our heads down, we're making these changes and slowly making smoothing over parts of the Logi game, right? Another thing we're going to be doing here is the fuel station, which you actually see here in the background. And this is going to behave like the fuel tanker, but it's stationary. And hopefully this will address one of the issues that we've heard, which is that fuel tankers, players like to put them at certain strategic locations, like vehicle factory, at mines, and so on and so forth. But because they can be moved, it sort of adds to frustration, right? Because they can be moved so easily. You just hop in and just like drive it away, right?
But now this gives the option for something that is supposed to stay there.
It's going to be, so when we work on update 26, we mentioned that we're slowly going to be moving towards a model of being able to have more things that are not just built with a hammer, but you actually bring them up with like a crane. And this is going to sort of be like another one of those, it's going to be like another one of those things, right?
I've got a really important question for myself, because I want to know, does it explode?
No, it's going to be like the fuel tanker for now, but who knows, right?
Fuel tanker should explode too.
Probably should explode. And then we're going to put this in just as another tool. And we'll see how it's used. We'll make changes if necessary, and there's just another one of those things on the list.
Cool.
Shipping container organization. We're gonna be adding color swap. So this is kind of cool. It's on the next slide. Being able to change the colors of your shipping containers, right? So this was also this is
very cool.
This is something we also want to do in update 26, but we just ran out of time. And we're hoping this is going to be the catalyst for more of this type of things, right? Like I already got like an internal suggestion this morning from Jeremiah that, hey, we should add this to the storage boxes too, right? I'm like, that's a pretty good idea.
We should add it to the storage boxes.
So in general, we want to just give more. There's certain players doing a lot with Logi, and we want to make sure they have the proper tools to like organize, right? And hopefully that will hopefully that will be used. Yeah, it's kind of it for the Logi side of things. Moving on to the Dead Harvest event this year, right? So this is coming October 16th. It's gonna be different this year, so it's not gonna be exactly the same. We're gonna be we're not quite ready to reveal all of the details, but the next stream is sort of when we're gonna walk through exactly what's gonna be happening. But it is gonna be in the World Conquest. I think we mentioned this last time. There's gonna be more content, right?
Yeah, in general.
In general, I can put it that way. More so. Last year we just basically had the zombies. This year there will be more, right? There'll be more for both sides, or all. Well, I'll say all sides that are fighting in this, right?
To talk about it sort of in vague terms, like we want to make sure that it's like integrated into the entire game, but we also don't want to take the game away from players.
Yeah.
Who maybe aren't totally interested, but. And so thus it needs to be expanded out from what it was last year, which was basically just like a deathmatch, like survival mode.
Well, it's like almost a horde mode on a single map.
Yeah,
right?
It was almost like a Left 4 Dead kind of thing in a weird way. But so it's going to be different this time. Which means it's not going to behave like that at all. The title should tell you a little bit. There's going to be some ongoing lore stuff for those of you who are interested in that.
Yeah.
That will expand the Dead Harvest universe of Foxhole, which
it's this weird
it's kind of like an alternate reality of Foxhole.
Yeah, which is already kind of like an alternate reality. It's like alternate reality within an alternate reality.
It's a weird thing, but it's fun.
I think one thing that has been cool is that as much as this is for you guys, it's also like for us a chance for us to sort of like do some like cooler things that usually are a bit too like outside of the constraints, I would say, of the normal game. And there is one really cool particular thing that I can't wait to show you guys.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling you guys are gonna like it. And it's I can't wait.
What is the canon ending of the last Dead Harvest? The zombies won. Because I don't really think that there was ever any
It's the wrong answer, Matt. It's player driven.
Sorry, the curse. Let's get very careful about our lore.
Let's go look at let's go pull up the save file from the last game and see who won.
See who won.
It's player driven, Matt. It's not determined by lore, right?
It was not.
Yeah.
It was not the soldiers. So this should be pretty fun, and we're looking forward to working on it.
Yeah. So look out for our next stream. All the excitement is going to happen then with regards to this in 2 weeks.
Excitement is the key word.
Yeah. And
all right, so this is going to be a short one. So we're going to spend a few minutes doing a Q&A. So get your questions in. I do have one from Minibar, I think, is who sent me the message. Let me just see. It's from Minibar. Question for the dev stream. What do you think about the stalemates with gas shells for the howitzer, like the situation in Lockheed, as an example?
My thoughts on these sorts of things is I usually like to try not to have too much thoughts when these things first start happening, unless it's like really critical. I almost want to give players a chance to like figure things out first. So I'd like to learn more about it is kind of my answer, and see how players are able to like adapt, because it's only been a couple of days with these new weapons. But yeah.
Good answer. Why is it not called, this is from Misco48, why is it not called Dead Harvester?
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe that's what it'll be called next year.
Are there any special plans for the Harvester? Will we have a zombie Harvester?
There will be no zombie Harvester.
No, I don't think so.
Right? So,
at least maybe not in the way you're thinking of.
You can be let down by that.
On to the next question. Spike 11313 asks, are we going to have an easier way to get fuel out of refineries?
That one, that question. Yes, that is at the top of our list. So that list I showed you earlier is just a small list of things that we're working on. In general, it's not just with fuel. I think in general, the process of the refinery is. We tried to solve this several times, and we even announced one of the solutions in the last dev stream, and then we found some problems with it. But in general, the issue of having to put your resources into the refinery and then having to like pull them back out, in general, is a larger problem. But the problem you're specifically talking about, being able to pull out your refined fuel from like what's the specific question? Pulling fuel out from the stockpile?
It just is there going to be an easier way to get fuel from the refinery?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, like a direct answer is yes. We are working actually specifically on a big change with regards to fuel and refining, and that we're definitely going to keep that in mind, right? So the answer is yes. We are working on that specific problem.
Max187 asks, regarding the combat rework coming in a future update, will the RNG of shooting small arms ever be removed or fine-tuned? Sometimes the skill gap feels non-existent in infantry fights.
We don't have plans to significantly change the RNG, but I do think that other parts of combat will change enough that it might impact that skill gap that you're talking about there. But the reason why the RNG is there is because we always we didn't want the main focus of the game to be about like how fast did I twitch aim this guy, right? Like it's not like Call of Duty, right? So we never wanted the arguments to be about that, right?
Realistically, it should be more about your positioning and your strategy.
Yeah.
And numbers and how you're using those numbers as opposed to one-on-one or one-on-5.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that we don't want to change the combat or like address certain frustrations that might come of the RNG. It just simply means that we're probably going to be sticking with the RNG. I think there's some other issues that are there, like I think going prone has some certain issues that we're taking a look at. It's a bit harder to hit someone than it should be. So that's something that's under investigation as well. But so like there's still work to be done there, right? For sure. But I don't think there's going to be some sort of like drastic, suddenly it's going to be all like Twitch based or something, right?
WWW asks, will Foxhole Competitive League ever be programmed into the game so that there won't be issues with like weapon dealers and such? I'm not as familiar with FCL.
Yeah.
It is currently regarded as the most fun format to play on Foxhole, which is maybe arguable, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I've talked to Crazy Flying Chicken about this several times because he's a lot more heavily involved in the FCL than I am personally. And I think this is one of those things where like we have to see how much staying power it's going to have. Like definitely FCL has come and gone in the past, and if it's important enough, like. I won't say if it's important enough, because a lot of things are important, but I'll say if there's like a demand for it, if we go a long while and it seems like the format has a certain level of like staying power, because I know the format has changed several times. Like if it sort of gets honed down to like, okay, this is the format and we know it's going to stay this way. And people are interested, and we know that every FCL season people are going to show up. I think I would consider it. I think I would definitely consider adding more support for it. But I don't think that immediately we're just going to jump on that right now and be like, yeah, we're totally going to support it, only for it to, some major problems to start showing up, and then we're like, okay, well, we're not really going to have a next season, and then be like, okay, now a bunch of work is wasted, right? So it's sort of, I think the answer is like, we're going to wait and see. I have talked to Crazy Flying Chicken about it, but we're sort of, hey, let's just see where it goes, right? Yeah.
Cool. Good answer. So there's a few questions kind of around this similar sort of thing. They're a little different each one, but they all sort of revolve around the ideas like, will we ever add anything to customize the characters? And this isn't even referring to like uniforms. There actually really hasn't been anyone suggesting that, but just like more things to add to your player profile, more profile pictures, things like sprays or badges or paint that you can use on your tanks or your whatever. Basically things to then personalize the experience. Do we see any of that coming down the road?
Yeah, I think we've answered this many times, but I think we do see that as part of like the end game. But right now, we're sort of don't want to add that stuff when there's still parts of the game that we feel are not stable yet. That we feel like it's sort of like work on the core game first, and then we'll add those sort of external, like extra things, like after, right? I would like to see it. I think it's a cool like extra if you're a fan of the game and you want something, you want to be able to do something that stays beyond the war, right? Like you're sort of able to, I guess there's two questions. There sort of sounds like there's two things there. One is the ability to customize, and the other one is the ability to keep things.
I don't think it's about keeping things. It's more about like expressing yourself or customizing yourself. Like a lot of the discussion right after that question was asked, is the fact that there's only colonial profile pictures and there's only one female profile picture. So like, first of all, we're warden biased, obviously. Second of all, that's a good example. Like we only have a handful of profile pictures. So even in the case where you do want to customize anything, it's like really limited.
Gotcha.
So it's like, how do you express your own personal identity in the game at all? And right now it's very, very limited. And so any ways for people to do that, even outside of uniforms, I think is what people are looking for.
Yeah. No, I think we're interested in that stuff for sure. I think next year is when a lot of that focus is going to come. That's definitely like a 2020 thing.
So here, a bit of a salty question, but I'm going to ask it. Before the combat has changed for 6 months, do you think it's wise to tell us your plans so we can provide feedback?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
I think that we will definitely test things out with certain players, and we'll definitely test things out with everyone. We sort of do things multi-level, right? First, we test things on our own team, and then we do more testing, and then we kind of like open it up in the dev branch. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the testing doesn't really get 100% validated until it's out there in the full war. Like you can do as much artificial testing as you want, and everyone's put their thumbs up and be like, yeah, this is good, right? Which usually is not everyone, because there's always some people, even 1% of like thousands of people is still a lot of people that are not going to be happy about it, right? But some of it just doesn't get tested until it's out in the open, right?
And for what it's worth, we pretty much don't put stuff out into the game without a bunch of testing, period. Do you know what I mean? Like it's never just like a blind. so for what that's worth, like take that as it will.
I mean,
there's a few things.
Yeah,
there's a few things, but
at the same time though, like we're not afraid to just
try something. Yeah.
Just try something, right? Like, I don't want to, like, the game. I think when we get to 1.0,
it'll be much harder. While we're in early access,
maybe we want to be a bit more careful there when we get to 1.0, right? Maybe we want to be, okay, we need to be a lot more vigilant, right? And do a lot more testing. But right now, the game is in early access so that we can test these things out. And our methodology is not right now. Our philosophy is not, everything's gonna be perfect when it comes out the door. Our philosophy is like, we're gonna try to be as responsive as possible, right? So.
Cronus Winter asks, will you ever allow players to run their own wars/private servers, +1 modding support?
Probably not anytime. Like, that's sort of like a pie in the sky type of feature that is dependent on so many things. I think that we used to, when the game was server-based before, we used to allow some of that, but I really think we're not focused on that right now. In the long run, who knows, right? Anything could happen, so I'm not going to say no to that. But for now, like, I think supporting that sort of thing, supporting player-run servers is a monumental effort, especially with the way that Foxhole is made now. It's a lot of work just to keep things up and running. Like, it might not, in a lot of games that are server-based, it's far more easy. You just have like a server binary, a server program that you like share on Steam, and then you just fire it up on any kind of server that you want, and it, kind of like this is like a Minecraft server or like a squad server, or like an armor server. Foxhole is a very different beast from that, right? It's more like an MMO where there's a bunch of other like backend servers that are doing a bunch of different things, like handling the world map and server travel and like map intel and all these things. It's not just a simple matter of like deploying a server. Like, just keeping it up and running alone is like many servers just to have one single world, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
So to sort of sum it up, it's kind of it's more like an MMO than it is just like an action game where it's like, So therefore, it's more complicated,
right?
Than just spinning up a server and going to town. I think we did do some of this a long time ago in early access launch, but that was when we had single map servers, and it was just kind of like the game was a lot simpler then, I think. So there was one question here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name. Are you planning to introduce a strict specialization?
A what specialization?
Like, I'm assuming strict specialization for characters.
Strict specialization.
Like, I choose like the Grenadier.
Probably not. I think something that we would be more interested in is player-driven, player-driven like kits that you can make. Let players like define the specializations, but no, I don't think we ever want classes in the game. No.
There's not too many more questions.
Let's do one more.
I think there's two good ones, and then we'll call it. Is there any idea behind making features in-game scale to in-game player count, i.e. stronger AI, less decay, depending on the player count?
Yes, that's a very, very, very good question. It's something that has been a growing thought in our mind. More and more, we definitely do some things to scale. Like we'll scale down the world, scale down some other things, and then during like the bigger updates and sales, we can scale it up, kind of like this recent update. But that's something we actually want to look into more, because the game it's very different. Like right now, the game is very different than it is when it's like less players. So I think that is something where, as much as we want to be like everything's just the same all the time, I think that making the compromise of changing some things, even if it's adding certain like magical elements into the game, is a compromise that I think we're comfortable with, right? Mm-hmm. So like, who knows? It could be something like, okay, when population is lower, you know, certain rules start to like kick into place, which probably a lot of people will take issues with some of these things, but you know, we're sort of figuring out how to better deal with like scalability, and I think that is something that is on the table when it comes to dealing with scalability.
Because when I think about it, even if we had, you know, hundreds of thousands of players at any given time, there'd probably be realms or whatever we'd call them that might still have population imbalances. So it is something, regardless of anything, to be looking into for the long term. And I do think it's a really interesting approach. So last question I'm going to ask, Destroy Bear asks, will we see more lore and more background stories? Yeah, for sure. One of the things that is really funny is when I announced the Chronicle of Ashes thing, I thought I had a lot of time in front of me, and I didn't. Life kind of gets in the way sometimes, and if you guys realized, over the last update, I was very, very busy, and I've been pretty busy at work ever since. And you know, in my spare time, I've been super, super busy compared to what I thought I was going to be. So that stuff's going to come. Lore is not the first priority when it comes to like my tasks or the tasks of the studio in general. So it is something that's sort of like an in-between kind of thing that happens. So there's going to be a lot more. It's just a matter of as soon as things slow down a bit, there'll definitely be a lot more coming. Yeah, so more is coming. That's like my vague answer, but I guarantee you that that's going to happen. Anyway,
cool.
On that note, look here or something for wherever HB puts something to do with YouTube. I'm just going to point here, and then maybe you'll get it. I don't know. Is there any final words, final thoughts?
No, I think you should tune into the next stream because it's going to be above average excitement level.
Yeah, the next stream.
Unlike this very laid back, mellow stream, that was this one.
The next stream is going to be very focused on Dead Harvest. It's going to be like everything that we're going to reveal everything Dead Harvest. Yeah. So that'll be, trust me, that'll be really exciting, especially if you liked last year's. If you don't like Dead Harvest, well, hopefully there'll be something for you.
Or if you don't like change, you might not be happy with it because we are changing some things.
It's going to be very different for a couple weeks. So, but hopefully, you know, it's a good thing. Anyway, with that being said, I don't know, stay foxy or something. And I've used the